I think the most difficult thing to understand about global governance is how confusing it is. Global governance is not something that's undertaken by the United Nations or the World Trade Organization, but is the product of a whole hodgepodge of regulatory efforts, some of which are undertaken by industry, by the private sector, some of which differ from sector to sector, some of which are national. Cities get into the picture. So there are a wide variety of actors who participate in constructing the regulatory terrain in which global commercial and economic activity happens. The difficulty is finding a spot in such a confusing terrain for political contestation, finding a way for people to, in one or another way, understand, hear, and contest the decisions that affect their lives. I think that's the root cause for many of the senses of disenchantment that we see in Europe as in the United States with the political process as it is. I think everyone understood from the beginning of the European project that the technical approach to governance would eventually reach a limit. In fact, at the beginning, many hoped that that limit would be reached rather soon and that the European Union would move from technical and economic issues to cultural and political issues. Well, in one or another way, that time has arrived, and the European project is struggling to understand how exactly it can deal with what are cultural and political challenges that arise from the relationship between peripheral and central countries in the Union, between new members and old members, between the North and the South, and so on. Once the European Union got to the point that its decisions and the decisions of a financial nature taken at the European level would affect the social and political lives of people across the continent, people were bound to begin to look for ways to contest those decisions. The difficulty is that there are no easy mechanisms for doing that, either at the national or the European level, and so we have a process of renegotiation of the terms. I think the relationship between Europe and the United States has always been much more than a commercial relationship. I'm heartened by the opening of free trade negotiations. I think that's an important signal of political engagement on both sides if it happens, although I doubt that deep progress will be made on the regulatory different issues that continue to be part of trade discussions. Far more important, in my view, are the long-term cultural relations and political strategic relations across the North Atlantic as we engage with emerging powers in the world. How are we together going to understand and relate to the new challenges that are posed by and new opportunities that are posed by the rise of India, the rise of China, Brazil, Latin America? It's always been an uneasy relationship in which Europe thought more about international affairs, but in one or another way, the United States did more. That imbalance will need to be addressed, and it's not just a trade imbalance, it's a strategic imbalance.